All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's class. So last week we talked about styling and we looked at different methods of styling. I believe we had the opportunity to test out that process when handling our um, promotional tax 3, right? Comments, please, so that we can move forward. Comments. Did you guys test out your styling skills? Okay, so let me hear your challenges with styling. Based off our last project, just come on, raise your hand up if you have an experience you want to share based on our last task. I will call names because we don't have that much time. We've actually eaten up 17 minutes. So let's go. Who's taking up the mic? Faith, let me hear from you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Yeah. Morning.
I don't really have a challenge, but for my styling, I use styling CSS. So
You use normal external CSS.
Tailwind, or Tailwind, how they call it.
Okay, all right.
CSS library.
How did you feel? How was it?
Yeah, it's good. Actually I've been using it for a while now, so I'm kind of very comfortable with it.
Okay. All right, that's fair. E-Tech, let me hear from you.
Sir, I have not done the promotional task 3,
Okay, all right.
although I've learned Tailwind CSS.
Okay, all right. That's fine. Caleb, let me hear from you. Okay. Caleb, I can't really hear you. Hello, Caleb. Okay, well, Caleb says he faced no challenge. He made use of CSS models and vanilla CSS. I would have loved you to speak to us. Let's hear your experience with CSS models and vanilla CSS. And how did you combine them? And what was your...
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. And what was your thought process? Why did you choose CSS models and vanilla CSS? And how did you combine them to achieve what you wanted?
Okay, I used some reusable components like the buttons and the text header for the pages. I discovered that they have the same font size, the same font weight, so I had to make them reusable components. So that was why I used modules or CSS for buttons and the headers. So I was just reusing them all over.
Okay, nice. Okay. Henry, let's hear from you, Henry. Then we'll take Said, then we'll kick off.
Okay, good morning.
Yeah, morning.
Yeah, I was able to use styled components.
Okay. Okay, what was it like and why did you choose to use style components?
Yeah, style components were like I have come across style component before, but I've not really used it. So I just wanted
it's more of
to
a learning experience for you.
Yes, I wanted to push myself and see how it really works. So I'm comfortable with that. So I would continue learning Tailwind and
okay. All right. Said, let's hear you. Then we move to our work for today. Said. Said, are you there? Let's hear you. Okay, it doesn't seem to be available, so let's hear from Iano.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, I was able to work with style components.
Okay.
My first time using it, but
Okay. So for you too, it was a learning experience.
yes, I was able to explore more with it.
Okay. Okay. All right. So apart from style components, did you incorporate any other one, or you just focused on learning style components?
Focus on more on style component, and I also use just a normal inline styling at some
Okay.
points.
Okay. All right. All right, that's fair. So for every other person that did not speak, I hope you guys had a good experience testing out some of these methods of styling, and hopefully, moving forward, you can strengthen your skills on each and every one of them. Like I said prior to this class, go back and do a little bit of strengthening for HTML. Try to explore HTML, how to better structure your HTML. Um, Great structure in HTML helps a lot with styling because it reduces the amount of targeting you need to do, reduces the amount of styling you need to do because it makes it simplified, right? Because the structure is already there. So now styling is like just adding little bits of beautification to your work, right? Okay, so today I will look at handling forms and input fields, right? Form input fields or form components. How many of you are familiar with using forms? Yeah, I'm waiting. Raise your hand, I'll call you. Okay, that'll be you are to some extent, Faith. Okay, that'll be I am. Okay, that'll be tell us about a little bit about your experience with forms.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I've tried using form in React, and I discovered that you have to use state
Okay.
to handle some parts of the form.
Okay. So is it like a necessity? Is it a must that you should handle it using the states?
Well, in my experience, I've been using states, but I know that there are some libraries too that they use for form, but I've not tried using library at all. So normally I just use states, yes, and the initial just I'll kind of have an object depending on what I want to have on my form. So the initial I can just put it name, then like string, that's nothing for the initial. Then later I will now define this like my input element. I will put the name and all that, and I'll then do the handle change and the rest of it, and form on submit,
Okay.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, nice. All right. Faith, you said to some extent. Let's see, what extent?
Yeah, just like Adobe said, there are some libraries, so I've not used those libraries, but I've heard of. I can't even remember any name now. So to some extent, yes. Because I've built like few projects where I kind of like send data to the backend or get data from the backend, like using Fetch API. So I know that, of course, just like she said, you have to like create a state that will like have an initial value. So you can be like the first name, last name should be like just an empty string, and then you're gonna put like an unchange to those input. You're going to put like unchange so that as the user is entering the data, is going to be saved on that state. Now, why we use state is because we know that like the values are going to change so that React keeps track of it. That's why we use state. And when the user enter maybe the email, enter your email, blah, 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 at gmail.com, we are going to save it in the email state and stuff like that. Then when the person is done, we're going to kind of wrap everything is like an object
Yeah.
and do
All right.
like JSON string of 5 for the object, so we can send it back to the database.
Okay. All right, that's nice. Caleb says the state keeps track of the value of the inputs. Okay. All right. Well, basically, like you all said, handling forms and form validation involves managing the state of the form inputs, right, and validating the data before submission. So basically, what we are trying to check is what is presently on that input field. What's the value? We take the value, right, and then we validate that this input field has given us value. Then we submit, right? So now let's assume we have a name field that we want to. If that name field is empty, we have to validate that there's nothing in that name field, so we can't submit nothing, right? So that's like basically handling form validation and input fields in React. So yeah, like you guys have all stated, definitely you need to state management basically, right? So you need to manage those states, and that's why it's like now we have two types of validation form components, right? We have controlled forms, and then we have uncontrolled forms. So controlled forms components are React components that render form elements and control their input values via the component state, right? So it's like we are using the component state to validate and to control. Is anyone following? Is it clear? Do you understand? Do you understand what I'm saying? So the date is the states of those elements, or those components rather, are updated on every change in the input field, right? So based on those changes, once you are typing into the input field, right, we are modifying the state of that particular component every time we type a particular, if it's a word or a letter, whatever, we are updating that state by typing, making the component the single source of truth for the form data. Are we clear? All right, good. So for uncontrolled components, right, there are form inputs that are managed by the DOM itself rather than React, right? So it's not React that's going to be managing the form data in these scenarios. And we use ref. There's what we call refs. It's also a hook, a React hook. Use ref. So we use ref to target, to assess the input values when needed. That is for uncontrolled components, right? Is it clear? Do you guys understand? Anybody has any question, please? Let's hear it. Yeah, so do you guys have question? Let's hear it. Okay, it's clear. All right, Caleb is clear. Two more reactions, two more comments, and then we move. I need to be sure you guys are clear so that we can be up to speed. All right, clear. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and work on something. Okay, so I'll just close all this. Okay, So nothing to worry about. I'm just closing what I was working with before. Okay. Okay, close this. All right. So let's create a controlled component. Let's have them all in. So let's have like forms folder, and then we can have controlled components. Okay. All right. So, RFC. All right. So if you have questions as we move, just write your questions in the text box, okay? And we'll treat them immediately. So for controlled components, definitely we need to import use states, right? Because we are going to be using use states to manage the states of our components. So, all right, so let's say const form data sets form data. Equals to use states. So firstly, we need to define an initial state for our form data, right? So let's say for our initial state, we are submitting only name and email for this example, right? Good. So first thing we need to handle is our handle change. We need to create a handle change. So tell me what you don't understand while I create the handle change. So let's say const the structure name and value, right, from e.target. Okay. Then we want to set form data. I want to spread it. Spread form data. Then let name. Yes, let name equals to value. And then we need to close this up. Okay. So anybody, do you have any issues with what we have done here? Please quickly, anybody has issues with understanding what was done in this handle change? Do you understand what we did in handle change? I need comments. If you understand, yes, you do. If you don't understand, good. Then I don't understand. Why are we so quiet in the class today? We have 13 people in the class, but I get a response from just about 3 people. Faith, Caleb, and me. And where is Abubakar? Faith, have you reached out to Abubakar? Why is he not on the call?
I don't know. I'll reach out to him now.
All right. Okay. Okay, let's go on. So yeah, you guys are clear with what happened here, right? So yeah, we are this is like our events parameter, right? And then so this event is passed automatically when the onChange event is triggered by an input field, right? This event, do you understand? For this now, we are destructuring the events that we are getting because we are handling all the form inputs together. So we are destructuring the events and we're saying, okay, whenever for any events that has name, we want to capture the name. And for every event that has value, we want to capture the value and save them in these variables. And then we want to pass the name as a key and then add the value to those keys. All right. Then we'll now handle our submits. So let's say const, yeah, so events.prevent default. Who can tell us why we use prevent default here? So it doesn't refresh. Okay. All right. Okay. So we are using this to remove the default behavior of the submit. The default submit behavior. Normally, when you submit, it's supposed to refresh the browser. So we use event.prevent default to avoid that behavior completely. So now definitely we should handle form validation to make sure that we are not submitting an empty form, right? So I will say if form data dot name. So if it doesn't exist, if it's falsy, right? Or if form data dot email is falsy too. So if form data dot email is falsy too, right? What we want to do is throw an alert that says please fill in all fields, then return nothing. Okay. Then if that's not the case, we want to console.log form submitted. So form submitted, form data. All right. So what we're saying, what we want to do here is we want to be able to, if these fields are empty, we want to throw this error message. And if the fields are not empty, that's if the two fields have content, then we want to throw this. Now, definitely we can use and here, right? Right, we can use and definitely because we don't want any field to be empty, right? Yeah, so we don't want any field to be empty. Well, let's use all. Okay. So for this now, when we click on this handle submit, when we use an on-click event on-click event to trigger this handle submit, if this form data is empty, we are going to get this alert on the browser. Please fill in all fields. But if form data has content, we are going to get a console log saying form submitted. Then we'll also console log our form data. Do we understand? Do we understand? All right, good. So for our component now, let's change this to form. All right. Let's change it to form and then let's say on submit, right? Let's use this handle submit on submit. Okay, then we can now create our input fields and all that. So let's say div, then we want to have label here. And for label, we want to have name. And input. Okay. All right. All right. So we can duplicate this and just change the name of our input field. So this will be email, and then this will be email. Are we together? All right, so let me break this down so that it looks a little bit more readable. All right. I hope you guys are following. I'm confident 2 people are following me. I don't know about the rest. Until it's time to do a task, and then they are now asking if I can tell them what they would have done better. Email. Okay. So we have this. So basically, this is our form. We're using an on-change, right, to handle our change function, right? And then we have our label. Then for this, we're going to change this to email because email has for input has an email type, which would help a little with form validation too, right? Now, I'm sorry you guys are wondering where are we submitting, right? So we can define our button here. So button and button type will be submit. Okay. All right, so let's call it submit. Okay. So I'm sure you guys understand that there's no styling here, so it's going to be rough on the UI. So let's see what it looks like when we actually call this form at our entry point, right? So let's say control component, and let's import it. All right. So if we go on, so if we go on to our browser, we should be able to visualize what we just did, except we have an error. So let's see what we have here. Okay, so the requested app.jss model do not provide an export name default at app. Okay. All right. So app.js, blah, blah, blah. Yes. Okay. And we have a default. So what is the issue? Hold on, guys. Let's see where we have our issue. Let's see. Control component does not provide an export name default. Okay. Export name default. We don't need an expert name default here. Oh. Okay, yeah, I'm with you guys. Yes, export default control component. So that's finished. Don't even export if it didn't. Yeah, you said I should cross check what? It seems like everything is saved. This looks saved, and this is where the error is coming from. So it's saying this does not provide okay. Okay. Okay, all right, let's move on. Let me figure it out using a different method. Yeah, there is actually. As you can see, there is one. Maybe I'm not correct. I think everything is closed. This looks closed. This looks closed. It's closed. Home is not a component. Handle change. Control save. Still giving the same issue. Yeah, it seems to be importing, but it's not still giving the same issue. App.jss, why? Okay, so let me assume that, let me see something. Let's assume that I call it positive. Okay. All right. Okay, so I believe that the issue we're having is coming from the app.jsx component. There seems to be an issue here. I'm gonna figure it out. Okay, for the benefit of the class, we can figure this out later. For the benefit of the class, we have it working using this as our entry point. So let's just go ahead and continue our class. So yeah, if we come here and we put David, right, and we say Dave at gmail.com, right? And we submit, we should have our payload. This is our payload. So our payload is appearing comfortably on our browser console, right? So if we do this, if we decide, okay, let's remove name and try to submit, see that we have a prompt here. Please fill in all fields, right? That's the same thing like if we do this and we come here and we remove everything, it should give us the same result. Are we good? Text box, guys. All right, okay, so let's go ahead and, okay. All right, let's go ahead and tweak our control components. Let's use it. Okay, let's have a different component for uncontrolled components, right? We use a lot of code from here, but we'll just tweak where we need to tweak and then we can move. So new component uncontrolled component engines X, Y, Z. Okay. So for uncontrolled, in fact, let's just create a new components, right? And see how it works. So let's say uncontrolled component. For this, we are going to bring in our useref hook. So bring in our useref hook. And then first things first, we want to define const nameref. So this is going to stand for our name input field, right? So we have the name ref, and then we say use ref, and we give it an initial value of null. Then we do the same for email ref, and then we give it the same use ref and give it an initial value of null. Okay, so we can go straight to handle submit, right? And then we say events dot prevent default, right? Then we go ahead and then we define, so we take out our values from the ref. So we say name ref dot current value. Okay. So we want the current value of the name ref, and then we also want the current value of the email ref. Dot current dot value. Are we following? So it's a user friend use ref. Okay, so use ref is a hook, right? So it's like saying you reference this particular thing and give me the value of that thing. So we are trying to get a value of a particular tag or whatever. Yeah, basically tag, right? So we're saying reference this tag, any value that this input field has, right? We want to take the current value of this tag based off the reference that we are giving to it. So now we're saying, okay, the reference we want to give to the name tag is name ref. And the reference we want to give to email ref is email ref. What this ref now, what this use ref does now is that it now takes the value. Do you get? It takes the value of the input field, or it's like an identifier. You can also look at it as an identifier. So it identifies the name input field and then extracts the value from it and saves that value. The state is also a state. We are still taking the state of the value, right? So we are saying at that present time, what is the value of this name ref, which is the input field that we are giving this reference now, name ref. We are saying what's the value of that name ref, input field. We want to take that value and then put it, yeah, more like an ID. Yes, exactly. So it works that way too, yeah. So now if we come to let's complete this function, then we can move further and handle, and then we can see how it works, right? We can see how it works in the form input field itself. So we want to also say if, let's do our validation, if name, right, or email is falsy, right? We want to throw an error, an alert saying, please feel same alert, we can utilize same alert, right? And then want to say console.log log form submitted. But this time we are not doing, unlike the other one now, we had form data, right? But this time we are going to be stating what we want to print because they are all separate now. If you notice now, we are not handling all the input fields together like we did when handling controlled components, right? Yeah. So we close this. All right. So we have our handle submit, and if you notice again, we don't have our unchanged events. Who noticed that? Who noticed that we don't have our unchanged events?
What if I ask them
So that would be why you're meeting when you are not called to. Okay, who else? Who noticed that we don't have? Okay, Tayo noticed. Who else? Who else noticed? It's just in this class because I see some writing on my screen. I don't know she's around. Yes, of course, our artist is here. All right, okay. So anybody knows why we don't have unchanged? Raise your hand, raise your hand. I want somebody to speak. Why do you think we don't have unchanged events on this component? It's uncontrolled. Okay, that would be, yeah, unmute and speak if you want to unmute.
I feel it's because it's not controlled and the use ref is already taking care of the unchanged event, so there's no point of having it.
Yeah, exactly. So because we are taking the values directly from the input field, right? We don't necessarily need, and like you rightly said, use ref is already taking care of pulling that value for us. So the fact that we are pulling that value, the current value that we have in that field, so at the stage of submission, at the stage of triggering this handle submit, right? that means we are done inputting our value. So anything that is left in that input field is the value we want to utilize, right? So in that scenario now, we're saying, okay, this is our current value and I want to submit it. So we don't need to check the state again because the present state is what we are using already, and useRef is handling the pulling of that value data for us. Okay, so let's go ahead uncontrolled. So let's, to avoid typing too much, let's just copy our code here. I hope copying this code does not confuse anybody. I hope you guys are not confused with copying code. Okay, so for this, since we are not bothered about the values, so we will take out the values. We are not bothered about the name. Take out the name. We don't have an unchanged to handle things here. We remove that, right? But we have a ref. So what we are going to say is the reference using the reference email ref. So we are going to ref this email ref to take out the input value, the current input value from this input field, right? And then we'll do same for name. So we'll say ref, name ref. Okay. So this is a simple uncontrolled form component. So if we export this and use it where we used the other one. All right, so if we decide to take it and display it where we just use the other component, pardon me, for today's class, to avoid confusion and delay, we are going to use here as our entry point. Okay, I'll get back to you. Dialua, I'm coming. Is there a situation where uncontrolled form should be used over controlled form? Well, that's a good question. But my response to you, Faith, will be depends on the scenario, right? Depends on what you're trying to handle. There are some forms that you want to handle everything together, right? And ideally, using useRef, let me take us to this component again so you understand better. So this is the useRef component. That means if I have 20 fields for my form, are you with me? If I have 20 fields for my form, I'm going to have 20 refs, 20 reference points. So that means I have to do all this over and over again 20 times, right? Faith, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Whereas for control component, all I need to do is define the initial state for the 20 input fields, right? And then I can use my state to handle all the input values together. Are you following? So this is a whole lot simpler and more simplified. Yeah, initially you look at this and you're thinking, okay, you don't need to do handle submit, you don't need to do, but at the end of the day, it becomes cumbersome when you are trying to handle large forms, right? Let's say you're trying to onboard for, let's say, payment system, and the person needs to put in their personal details first, go to another screen, put in their business details, go to another screen, do validation and what do you call them, BVN and all that kind of validation, right? And then they still go to the next screen and maybe they need to put their next of kin, stuff like that. Now, those kind of forms are very large forms. It's not, you won't really use ref for this kind of forms or uncontrolled component for this kind of forms. You want to use a little bit, you want to use controlled forms because you don't want to handle all that data separately to enhance readability, of course, and to avoid confusion along the line. So you now want to use a controlled component so that you just all you need to do is define the initial state, have your handle change, which is going to work with every input field, right? So all you are doing is for every input field, you just give it an unchange, and then you add your handle change component. Yes, the handle change component can be a little bit more complicated depending on what you are trying to use it to do. You might have different logic for how you want to you might have different logic for how you want to utilize your or you want to use your handle change, right? Maybe you have customized input fields and you have different method that you are taking out data from there. Sometimes you might have a form that you might have a custom input field that you are taking out two values. So let's assume that you have like a drop-down input field, yeah? And for that drop-down input field, you want to take out an ID for each selection you make and also the content. And let's assume that those two are supposed to be part of your payload. You might want to improve on your handle change logic to see how you can take out those two informations and spread them out and utilize them for your form submission. So the more complex it is, the more we consider the controllable, maybe even because of performance. Okay, yeah. So yeah, definitely. If you have the time to sit and write refs and you don't mind, you don't get confused and all, right? Of course, you can use the use ref. In fact, you can use the use ref or the control component, whichever we bought, for efficiency, code efficiency, readability, and yes, definitely performance, right? You will prefer using controlled components. Yeah, does that answer your question? Someone did not understand something earlier. Tayalua, what did you not understand? You understand why it's uncontrolled. Okay, but you understand now, right? Tayo, do you understand now? Let's be fast now. Tayo, do you understand why they are controlled and uncontrolled now? You ask the question and you disappear. That's wrong. Yeah, okay, not Tayo. So it's let me call the person Enoch then. Tiolua. Tioluani. Or should I call the person Enoch? Should I call you Enoch? Text box quickly. Okay, that's fine. I guess he understands now. So let's just move on. All right. So we want to handle, let's look at basic. Let's look at form validation a little bit more in depth, right? And let's use our control school now, understand. All right, cool. I get it now. Okay, so let's use our control component to handle a little bit more complex form validation, right? So for this form now, we are going to take out we are going to handle form validation using a more complex way of handling, in fact, a better way. Let's use a better way of handling form validations. So let's call this validated. Validated. Okay. Let's go validated and we have our arrow function. Then we now say for validation, let's have new error to define all our error messages, right? So new errors, and let's give it initial state of empty array, right? Okay, so we now say if form data dot name, right, is falsy, we want to update our new error dot name and say name field is required. Okay. If you get lost, just let me know. I can track back. Then, yeah, we want to say the same thing for email, right? And then we still want to further validate our email. So we want to say else if email. So this is typically email validation formats. I will explain it a little bit further if you guys need that. And we say at yeah, okay. Yes. 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 Okay. Dot. Yes. 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 Okay. All right. So now say dot test form data dot email. A new error. So we still want to define another new error for this email. So dot email would be equals to email is not valid. Okay. All right. So after this, we definitely want to return new error. Okay. So what do you not understand here, guys? So that we can look at it quickly and move on. Do you understand what's happening here? Or do I need to explain it? Let me explain it for the benefit of people that would watch the video, right? So for this, we are saying if form data does not exist, if it's false, we want to set new error. The name value of new error, we want to set the name value of new error to name is required. Now for email, we want to do the same thing, right? Set the form value of email, the new error value of email to email is required. They want to say if these two are not issues, right? If we don't have this issue, that means form data.name is available. Form data.email is available. We still want to check the format of the email to be sure that it is actually an email format or a correct email that is being sent, right? So we now define the format of the email that we want to send, test it on that form data.email, right? So if this format does not, if the email that is inputted does not match this format, right? We now want to say new error and say this email is not valid. This is not a valid email address, right? So let's attempt to clarify this box, right? This email format, so that maybe you understand it a little bit better, right? So essentially, all we want is, we don't want the email to be empty, and we want it to follow a particular format. Now, this first part, right, of this email format is just trying to get matches of one or more non-white space character, right? So we don't want any space in our first character. Then we want to add it to an @ right? So the next character after non-white space characters should be an @ Are you following? Then we want to match again. So we want to say, we now want to have another non-space, no white space. We still want another word or joint word, whatever, but it should not have white space. And then we want to have a full stop. Then same thing again, right? So in essence, if we have David at sumptuous.el, that should stand as a valid email. Are we clear? Please, let's comment, please, quickly. Are we clear with this? All right, good. So if we meet this format, right? So we're saying if this format is false, that means what you put in did not match this format, right? We want to test it, and then we want to return email is not valid. Okay, let's modify our submit function, right? So for here now, we are going to say const new error. Right? We want to say our new error should be validated. So we want to use this validated as our new error. This validated as our new error, right? So it's a function. We're going to be calling the function. All right. So we're calling this function for our new errors, right? So when we have this, we can now say so object the keys new error. Then we say dot length is greater than 0, right? We want to return, or want to set our error, set error for new errors. So in this part now, I would expect that somebody want to know how are we setting error when we did not define any states for the errors. Do anybody think of that? Hello, let's comments, please. Let me have your comments in the text box. Did anybody think we are setting errors, but we don't have any states defined for error? Nobody. Okay, so Caleb, unmute yourself. Do we require state management to handle these set errors? Please, can you hear me? Can anyone hear me? Or am I speaking to myself?
I can hear you.
Okay. Let me hear your response now. So we are trying to set errors. Do we require any state management to set error? Hmm? Well, let me just understand that there's no answer is wrong in my class. So just feel free. Give me your response. I just want to pick your brain. And your voice is quite low. Can you speak up?
I don't think we need to get a state because
So you don't think we require to handle states when we are setting errors or when we want to do set error, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Henry, how about you?
I don't really think that that state will be needed since if we want to handle this error, yeah. I don't really, it's not that clever. I don't really think we need it.
Okay, let me give one more person a chance. Faith. Is Faith still here? Faith is no more in the class. Okay. Said. Yeah, I'm waiting for you, Said. I don't understand why Said.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, your response. Let's hear you.
Yes, we need a state to keep track of errors.
Okay, all right. Okay, so out of the three people, that responded, Said got the answer correct. Are you supposed to set error when you don't have a state that's managing your error? You definitely have to. You need to have states to manage your error, of course. So you're supposed to have const error and then set error. Are we together? Okay. There's errors. Okay, so yes, definitely we must track our states. That's the whole idea of it, because we are setting new error to a state, because why are we setting it to a state? We can define this component now and we don't use the error message, right? But we have defined error messages here that we want to display. Like for this scenario now, we are trying to say, okay, we are definitely going to want to display this name is required, because we want the person that is utilizing the website to see the error, to see why their form is not submitting. Do you understand? So now how do we take this error now and display it for the person to see? We have to keep track of the error. How do we keep track of the error? Set it to state, so that now we can now display what we have based on the validation. So if the validation is wrong, we are now tracking it. We are now saving the error to state and now saying, okay, based off this input field, if the validation is wrong, send this error message to state. And then this error message should appear for name. So now, let's assume that I console log, okay, don't worry, we are going to get there. So let's assume that these errors here, right? It's supposed to display something for us when we click on submit because we want to see, okay, did we scale through our validation? If we didn't scale through our validation, why didn't we scale through our validation? Is this clear? This is to Henry and the people that's good. I need you guys did not understand, did not know that you needed, and I need you people. Who else answered? I think who else answered my question? Caleb. Yeah, I need you to identify that you understand why we need states for this. Hello, Caleb.
Yeah, can you hear me?
So do you understand now why we need states? Hmm?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good. So don't feel, I feel like if I have a question and you don't have, you are called up, give me your response because it will help me understand where you are and how I can help you understand what we're trying to do. And then when you don't understand what's going on, ask questions, please. So basically what we are doing here, yeah, you can meet now. So we are tracking our validation using this, and we are setting all errors to this set errors. So anywhere we display or we want to console log these errors now, if we fail validation, we are going to get the required or the appropriate error message based off the input field that is failing validation. All right, let's go ahead and so this solves our problem. So all right, so based on this now, we have everything settled for our handle summit, right? And we are tracking our errors and we are saving our errors to errors. So now we want to display these errors now so that the user can see where their fuck up or where their issues are, right? Apologies for the curse word. Okay, so let's go on. So for this input field, I would now come here and say, yeah, seems like my browser knows what I want to do. Okay, so for this, I say errors.name, and I like to use a span tag here. All right, then I'm giving this a color of red. That's like typically error color, right? So I'm saying for when errors.name, and it should display this, and it means I want to display the errors.name here, right? And then I do the same thing for email and say email. So I'm tracking the name error and the email error, right? So if we come to our entry point, and then we bring this okay. Yeah. Main.js, I'm not using the uncontrolled anymore. Why is this application behaving like this? Good. Okay, so we have our component displaying. So if we put David and then we put Dave at smile.ng, right? And we click on submit. We should have everything working fine, right? Then, if we now have, we remove David and we try to submit. It now says, please fill in all input fields. This is wrong. So hold on, let me know why I'm getting something wrong here. I don't have any of this messages required. Control components. Okay. So now console logins. Okay. All right. Okay, hold on, guys. Okay. So this is no set console.log. There's no console.log in this code. So why am I getting this? Somebody please help me beg Josephine to stop drawing. Hello, Josephine. All right, so let's figure out why we are having the wrong display on the DOM. Seems to be like this is what's still displaying. Okay, there's a component that is not saved. Which component is that? Oh, okay, I see. All right. Let's see now. So good. So yeah. So our component was not saved. That's why we were having that issue. So as you can see now, we have empty fields, right? And we have our error message being displayed here. Name is required, email is required. So let's say we put our name, right? And then we try to submit again. You see that the error message is only particular to email, which is empty, right? So let's assume that we have David in email and we try to submit. The error message should change. So you see, please include an @ in the email address. David is missing an @ right? Are we good? So what just happened here for this pop-up, right? For this pop-up is the default. Let's go to our code. So this is what just triggered this. This is what just triggered. So that also serves as extra, how do you call it? Extra validation, right? So if I remove this and come back and submit it, didn't save it. Why is it not up to save it? And I submit, you see that this one works now. Email is not valid. Do you get it? Is it clear? Is it clear? Can we move? Good, but if I put back, if I uncomment this type now, This type handles validation for email, especially with regards to the format of the email, right? So this now is almost useless because the email field already handles this. In fact, okay, not really this sharp. What is more like it's a little bit useless now is this whole email is not valid, right? But it is not useless. Why is it not useless? Because for user experience and the UI beautification, right? In this kind of scenario, you want to handle all your error messages in the same format. You don't want the situation where your name error is showing red on the side or underneath your input field, and then it gets to your email and your email is popping out like a dragon, right? So if we do this now, if we do this, you discover that you see that for this now, if we put Dave here, so the input field is, why is it not working? Okay, I didn't save this. Okay, so if we click here now, it should pop up. Please include, you get. Now, this is a little bit more elaborate, right? So you can actually modify your error message for email validity to have this kind of, like, to be more descriptive, right? Do you understand? That's where logic comes in. But basically, this alone should tell the user that this email is not valid. Alone should tell the user that your email is not valid. And the person should be able to look through it and see where the issue is. Yeah, so that's basically that. So if we remove this from here, it should be the same. It should give you different application. So we come here and we should have our validation error showing red on the side, right? So if we click this now, you see name is required, email is required. So we put a bad email, right? And then it changes, email is not valid, right? We put name here, we still have email is not valid. This one is cleared now, this is validated, right? So if we come here and we put an actual email and we submit, it should submit and give us the corresponding valid response on our console. So do we all understand what I have explained in this? There is also a default validation for empty field required, though it doesn't show in red. Yes, exactly. So yeah, so there's also a default. So you can come here and write required. So what this does is, if you don't have any, let's assume that, let's just work on it. So let's remove this and click on submit, right? And click on submit. So you see what that one is doing? Please fill in this field. Is it clear? So for all these things, it depends on how you're handling your error messages, right? But ideally, it's always more user-friendly to have a definitive error message, like to handle your error the way it is handled here, right? So you are the one telling them what to do and why their actions are not corresponding to what they are trying to achieve. Are we good? Are we good, guys? Okay, I got one response. Are we good? Anybody has issues? Do we all understand what's happening with forms and handling forms? Because our next class will look at some form handling libraries like Formic. and YOP. So YOP for validation and then Formic for handling form submission. So I need you guys to understand what's happening here perfectly, because all this now will translate all this into, it will help you understand when we are using libraries like Formic and YOP. So are we good? Or package them? I think YOP is package. So I need responses. Let me have responses. You have questions, feel free to ask questions. Let's hear them. Hello guys, can we speak? Any issues? Are we clear? I have just two people who are clear in this class, so I'm going to assume that about 17 of you in this class, okay, 12 of you in this class don't understand what we are doing. Is that the case? Abiola, do you understand what we are doing here? Respond in the chat box. That will be you do same. Do you understand what? Okay, Adabi said yes. Okay, good. So Daniel, I noticed as we submit each of the forms, the details are there and not clearing. Okay, yes. So yes, we can actually handle that using clear form, right? So we can handle that using clear form. Yes, yes, you can do that definitely. Yes, of course. Okay. Is that clear? Do you understand that? Or maybe you want to dig a little deeper into handling that? Okay, Daniel, you're clear. All right. Okay. Who else? Oh, Faith, you're back. Okay. Faith, you might want to watch the class again because I think you missed a lot. Faith, did you get that? Go over the video. All right. Yeah, no, clear. Okay. All right. So let's call it a day. We're going to look at some advanced methods of handling form in our next class. For this class, let me give you guys a little take home. So what you do for me is do a proper validation of an uncontrolled component. So if you notice, we use the controlled component to handle our validation today, like to do proper validation today. I want you to replicate that and do it for an uncontrolled component. Let me see what it will look like when the component is not controlled. Are we good? Did you get that? So Faith, write out this test that I just take home I just gave. Write it out as a question, write as a question and post it on Slack for everybody to be able to visualize. Then in our next class, we will start with that before we continue. We'll start with that very task. Yeah, Faith will drop that on Discord for everyone. So we'll start with that. We'll look at what we've done or what we've achieved, everybody, and then we can now move into Formic and other methods, right? Yeah. So thank you guys for joining today's class. even though I feel like the class was too cold today, not enough engagement. I was forcing people to write, forcing people to accept that they understand or do not understand. But I believe that our next class will be better. I like the fact that I like when we communicate and we are connecting, and it's easier for you to understand what's happening when you're asking questions or responding to questions. All right. So thank you guys for today's class. Thank you for coming up. Check up on your colleagues to know why some of them did not show up. I think a couple of them that are regulars, I didn't see them on the call today. Try to reach out to people that you didn't see, the likes of Abubakar and some other people, and keep in touch with them. Feel free to DM me if you have challenges. Ask questions on the Discord, and I think that will be all for today. Thank you guys. Bye.